Illinois Governor JB Pritzker just pulled off what no one in the free world has ever been able to do: make Trump face reality. Pritzker just cut Trump off at the knees before he even gets started with his Chicago invasion plans. I'm going to show a clip of Pritzker slamming the door in Trump's face, and you're going to want to see it. Because Pritzker is willing to do what others are not: stand up to Trump as the only adult in the room and call out Trump as the fraud that he is. Now, we all know that Donald Trump is a 34 times convicted felon and an adjudicated rapist. But can we just take a minute here to underscore again that Trump was convicted 34 times of fraud? Trump has always been a fraud, but as with everything else with Trump, it gets normalized. But the biggest fraud Trump has ever pulled off is this act that he is some kind of tough guy. He is, in fact, just the opposite. But that doesn't keep Generalissimo Bone Spurs from pretending that he is some kind of big military-type tough guy. Nobody has done more to screw veterans than the draft-dodging Trump, and yet he still lives in this fantasy that being commander-in-chief somehow makes him macho. We're talking about the guy who only a couple of weeks ago tried to call himself a war hero because he ordered the bombing of Iran. And this is the problem with Trump. The deeper his fantasies go, the more the Republicans reinforce it, and the less the media are willing to confront it. So just this morning, Generalissimo Bone Spurs posted this on social media. I love the smell of deportations in the morning. Chicago's about to find out why it's called the Department of War. Yeah, and no one was wondering why Trump insisted on the rebranding of the Department of Defense. It was obvious because it made Trump feel like more of a man, which, when you've got a mushroom, might be necessary. And what the media are not even going to remotely touch when it comes to this post is the fact that this is Trump in his most unadulterated form. Because at its heart, this post is pure fraud. It boasts of being fraud. It revels in being fraud. It's stolen valor from Apocalypse Now. In other words, stolen valor from fiction. But Trump can boldly proclaim it because he knows there's no one in the world who's going to call him on being a fraud. No one is going to point out how ridiculous it is for this fat, balding Pillsbury doughboy who cheats at golf to pretend that he leads the cavalry. No one but JB Pritzker, that is. And likewise, no one in the media is willing to call out Trump for unequivocally declaring war on a U.S. city. No one but JB Pritzker. Pritzker not only calls out Trump, but he slams the door on the invasion plans before they even get started. Watch this.
Any National Guard from any state that is federalized now becomes like a military troop. They are not allowed to do law enforcement. They can come into the city, but they are restricted essentially to federal buildings, protecting federal buildings. If that's what they intend to do, that is legal. But they're not allowed to simply come into the neighborhoods and start, imposing their will. There are laws against this. There is, in fact, unless there's some sort of insurrection, which there is clearly not, or an attack on the United States coming from a city, then these troops are not allowed to do anything.
What Pritzker is doing here is precisely what LA and DC mayors were unwilling to do: place limits on both the National Guard and the municipal police. The problem with LA is that with the National Guard and the military roaming the streets, the LAPD gave themselves free license to attack the citizens of LA. Some of the worst abuse came from the LAPD, who also helped ICE grab people off the streets. Pritzker is making clear that this time will be different. Chicago PD will not be assisting, they will be ensuring. They will make it clear that the military must restrict itself to protecting federal buildings, period. They will not be assisting ICE in their raids. In fact, the only thing Pritzker leaves out here is whether the police will allow masked and unidentified federal agents to take people off the streets. That is the confrontation we are all looking to see. Chicago is uniquely positioned to bring that strategy into the mix. And finally, what Pritzker is saying when you read between the lines here is that the war against brown people and against black people is not going to be allowed on the streets of Chicago. And since Trump loves to revel in a fictional world, here's the lesson JB Pritzker is sending to Trump.
Here's how you get him. He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way.
It's almost enough to make you want to root for the Chicago Bears. Almost. Let's not get crazy here. One thing's for sure, Trump is no New York Giant. I'm Anthony Vincent Gallo for Occupy Democrats.